Okay, Lightroom tutorial, how I edit my photos in Lightroom. So the concept of this is you get a raw file. I've already imported 3 raw files and I've edited 2 of them. Your camera shoots in RAW and JPEG, or several other settings too. The point of a RAW picture is that it's a lot bigger of a file, which means it has a lot more data in it and a lot more stuff for you to edit and change around. So it works very well for Lightroom. If you're doing just Photoshop, JPEG works fine. But for high quality editing, you want to use Lightroom and you want to shoot in RAW. So this first picture here, I'll show you basic concept of how I edit. I like to give things more of an earthy look, and I like to really bring out oranges and teal colors. And all these pictures I'm doing today, there's not really any teal, but this gives you a pretty good idea. So this is after editing everything. You can see it's a green, orangish look. There's a lot of depth to it. If I reset the picture to what it originally was, there's really no orange. It's all just a dark green. The trees up front here, they are a lot darker. There's really no texture to them. The rock here has no orange accents, and it's a very flat looking picture. Then after all the edits are done, we get a little more depth so that it seems like we're actually sitting there looking at things. You can see the oranges in here and up here, and a little bit of orange, tint to the interior area. It gives it a lot more detail by brightening up the picture. So we'll start with this picture. First, we want to go to basic, and this is a very bright picture, so we might want to take the exposure down a little bit, but not a lot. You don't want to really mess with the exposure too much because it'll changes the look of the picture very fast. So I took down some of the exposure, just so you can see what it looked like without what I just did. It's a little bit brighter. 8.3, put it back down. Contrast, we might want to increase it a little bit for this picture. Maybe like 5, just to give it some more detail. Actually, maybe 10 here. Just to give it some a little bit more detail in the colors here. Now here's the important part. Some people use the tone curve. I'm not too good at this, so I like to use the highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. That's basically what the tone curve is. Just another way of doing it. So the highlights in this picture are the sky. I like the highlights all the way down because it gives it an orange and a blue color here instead of just a white color. So now we have a little more color in our sky. Then we're gonna go to the shadows, check see what they change. So the shadows is pretty much the entire bottom of the picture. We don't want it too bright because we want to keep like some good coloring here, but I think lowering it might be the best. It seems like there's more color in that situation. Now we're looking at whites. We'll probably just leave those alone here. Turn it all the way up, it's too bright. Turn it all the way down, it looks too flat. There's not like a lot of detail. So we'll maybe do like -20 here. I think that looks good. It gives it a little bit more color in the sky as well. Then blacks. I think that probably just keep the blacks in the picture as they are. So we still have a pretty bright picture here. So next we're going to go to color. I'm going to change the colors around in this picture. So each color in the picture represents the color hue of a color in the picture. So first off, to check if we even have any red, because I don't think we have a lot. We have a little bit in here, it seems. So what I do to do that is I take the luminance and put it all the way up, and take the saturation and put it all the way up to see where I'm editing or what the color is that I'm changing. And so we either change it from a bright orange to a pink color. And I kind of like the red color right in between here. I think it helps create some detail. Let's bring back down the saturation now that we know what we're looking at. So we'll take a look here. Slide it from left to right. I like the more reddish look all the way down here, so I'll do that. And then I'm going to take the saturation up a little bit, maybe up to 50. not making much of a difference here. That's a pretty big difference from 50 to 75, so maybe we'll do 60 in between here to give it that look right in there. Now we have a little bit more depth. Our picture doesn't look as flat and foggy. Now the luminance, we might want to increase that a little bit here, maybe 15, just to make it pop a little, give it some more depth. Now we're going to head on to orange. Again, I'm going to turn this up so I can see what I'm editing here. So this has to do with the sky right here, as you can tell, and it has to do with some of the rock too. So since it's in two separate sections, we're not going to want to change this a lot, because if we change the sky, it's going to reflect in the rock. If we change the rock, it's going to reflect in the sky. So we have to find a good balance here on both of them. So that's what it looks like currently. We can go from I like that, a deeper orange. I think it makes the sky look a little bit better. Now we're going with almost more of a pink color, but I think that hue is a nice hue for this picture. Now we don't want to increase the saturation too much, because see how it affects the rock. And also it kind of looks a little bit too over the top. I'll put it at 50 because I think that's a good color for the sky here, but it really affects the rock in this, so we might just have to keep it at 0. And then the luminance, obviously we don't want it all the way down. I don't think we want it all the way up. I think the luminance is just good where it is. Now moving on to yellow. That's a little bit more of the sky now. It's that middle part of the sky up here is what we're changing at this point. Looks like that's the only part of the picture we're changing, so I think to give it more of that pink look, we'll just drop it all the way down, and that's an easy fix. I don't think there needs to be any saturation at all. Maybe it adds a little bit more of a depth to the sky, so maybe we'll put it at 40 here, just to bring out some yellows too, it seems like. And then obviously we don't need to mess with the luminance on this part either. Heading on to green. Don't know if there's much green in this picture. It seems like there's some right up here. Obviously we don't want green in our sky unless we can pull off a cool look here, which it kind of doesn't look. It looks almost like it's a bit of like an aurora lights thing, but I think it looks a little bit weird, so we'll probably just bring it back to yellow. I think it gives a more natural like finish off to the sky. We'll do maybe negative 75 here for that, and we'll bring down the saturation too a little bit. We'll do 75. Okay, so now we got 3 different colors in our sky. We got a little yellowish green between the blue and the red, so it's a nice gradient here. Moving on to aqua. Seems like aqua is the lake here in the top of the sky. I like let's turn that up so we can see what we're really working with here. So it's this little top part of the sky and this bottom part. I like it all the way to the left, but it creates, well, I'm on high saturation, so that might help get rid of that line. Same with the luminance. Keep it the same color here. I'm liking that. I think it gives a nice combo. I think it finishes off the sky perfectly. Now we'll keep the saturation low on that, because when you turn the saturation up, it kind of creates a greener look. So I like how it looks there. Heading on to blue. So blue is the whole texture in this picture right here. So we'll turn just so you can really tell. This whole section in here is all the blues in this picture, because it was kind of a lighter picture. So now we have to figure out, do we want to, how much do we want to change this? So let's turn this back down a little bit here, so we get a more, wrong picture. We're gonna head back here, and we'll do 0 for this too. Now, a icier look would be right here, and I think that the icier look is more realistic looking, so let's put it at 0 for a second. That's basically 0. see what it looks like, and then -15. I think it gives it more of an icier look. Maybe we'll do -10 because it's a very fine line here between looking too over, too much color change and just a little. I think that gives it a nice look though. When we look at the saturation, I like the less amount of saturation because I think it makes the reds pop a little more and the sky stand out a little more. So maybe we'll do -20 on the blue saturation. Make it a little more like grayish mountainside looking instead of blue. And then for luminance, I think though the lower the luminance, the better it looks because it kind of gives it more of that texture, but we don't want it too low, so maybe -50 is a good medium because I don't want this top corner too dark either. Heading on to purple, seems like purple has some to do with this. I think putting it all the way over here looks good. Obviously we don't want to, well yeah, let's take a look at what we're editing here. Maybe we'll turn the luminance all the way down so we can really tell. So we're editing a little bit of the hue of the shadow in the water, and we're editing some of the mountain detail. So let's put these things back to 0. And I think it looks pretty good with that more to the reddish area. It gives more of that red look to the mountain, gives it a darker blue shadow instead to contrast with that light blue. And then last color here is magenta, which I don't think we really have any of in this picture, so we'll get out of that. Last thing, lens correction. I think this is important to give depth to your picture. Always want to increase the depth, especially if you have a person in the picture. I think this really adds a nice effect. It makes it look a lot better. So we'll do 50 here, just to give you an idea of what it looks like without it. See how flat and zoomed in it looks? You add 50 to the distortion. I think it gives it a good amount. It gives it more of a fisheye look, so you can see how it really stretches those edges and gives it that depth. We don't want it at 100 because that's too far away from what it actually was. But now if we go back to 0, it does look extremely weird. It doesn't look how we remember it at all. So we'll go maybe 60 on this one. I think a lot of this one can use a lot of perception. So zoom in, zoom out here. And so now let's take a look at what things would look like without all this editing. So that's what it was before, and now this is what it is after. Now it's looking like a little bit of a better picture. That one didn't have as much color, so it's harder to tell. We'll go back to this one over here. We'll do a reset on this one to show what it looked like originally. Originally, this was very dark down here. There wasn't as much color in the sky, but it had a nice depth, and it had like an icy look, which I wanted to keep. So I tried to keep the icy look throughout the mountains, give the forest some color and some view, add as much red as I could into the sky without it looking too overdone. So I really put down the whites to give it more color and darkness in the sky, so you can see the clouds better. And then I took down the highlights as well to get the sky in a better situation. I increased the shadows to give the trees more depth. And I left the blacks alone. And then same thing, I have lens correction on this. I have distortion so that just to give an idea of what it looks like without it. It's very zoomed in. I think I had it on 50 just now. So we'll bring it back here. And then, of course, color again. We went through, changed around some color, found the best combo, and put it through. And then, of course, I looked at this one first, but I think this one turned out the best because it had some oranges in it and it had some greens, like two very prominent colors, and it was very easy to edit because there's a lot of detail. And it was a good picture originally. So yeah, that's the end of this video. Hopefully you learned something, and that's how I edit my pictures and how I get some depth and some real like orange and teal look, really accentuate the important colors.